Good afternoon, everybody. Today, our concept is Sastra and Science, both are synonymous. We are in second unit, that is Modern Science and Ancient Knowledge System, Yoga, Holistic Healthcare. So far, we have discussed the importance of Sanskrit language, and we have discussed another concept, Introduction to Modern Science and Ancient Knowledge System. So let's discuss the third concept, that is Shastra and Science both are synonymous. So let us look at how Shastra and Science both are synonymous in terms of their methods or in terms of their assessments. So a little comparison may help us to understand that both Shastra and Science both are synonymous. For example, if you look at the scientific analysis, or if you look at from the scientific point of view, that a thing or something can be proved with a formulation of rules or formulation of theories. Likewise, our ancient sastras also adopted certain methods or adopted certain formulas to prove something. For example, our ancient knowledge system was based on observation, whereas the modern science also is based on observation. If you look at astronomy, our ancient astronomers, based on their observations, they calculated the distance between sun and moon, they calculated the distance between sun and earth, and they calculated distance between sun and other planets, and they also worked on some stars. So here the modern science also is based on observation. So here the comparison, we can know, we can see, or we can observe that the comparison between science and Shastra based on observation. And the second point here, hypothesis, anumana. This is another concept, hypothesis. Or for example, if we do this experiment, it might result in something. That is what is called hypothesis. Whereas science also believes in hypothesis, Shastra also believes in hypothesis. And third step is what is called experimentation. Science conducts experimentation, whereas our Vedic scholars or Vedic seers or Vedic Shastras, they also adopted the method of experimentation. And after experimentation, the fourth step is what is called forming the principles through deduction and induction methods. Deduction and induction method, it was formulated by Aristotle, a very famous philosopher and scientist in the history. Likewise, our Vedic scholars also, they adopted the method of deduction and induction method. Deduction method is from more specific or more general to more specific, whereas induction method is from more specific to more general or generalization or generalized theories. So the fourth concept is what is called induction and deduction method through logic. So these are all the essentials, or these are all are the essentials of science. Likewise, the Vedic scholars and Vedic seers also, they adopted these four basic methods to prove something or to write some text. That's what you can see. All the texts, all the Vedic texts are based on these four methods, and whereas the modern science or science also adopts these four methods. Shastra and science, in terms of their adoption of methods, or in terms of their results, both are synonymous. And the science, our Indian knowledge system, actually is based on perception. Perception is nothing but observation. It is what is called pratyaksha in our ancient knowledge system. This concept is what is called pratyaksha, observation or perception. How to perceive something, perception. The second process in our ancient Vedic science is what is called anumana. In English, it is what is called hypothesis. Science also believes in hypothesis. Generally, when we write research proposals, we write hypothesis. And the third concept is what is called shabda, verbal. Even our Vedic sciences or Vedic Sastras, they also adopted the method of Shabda, it means verbal testimony. And the fourth concept is what is called induction and deduction methods. Whereas science also believes in induction and deduction methods of logic, more specific to more general to more specific. And Vedic seers, they observed, they based the Vedic seers or Vedic scholars, they took up these four methods of experimentation or perception and hypothesis, Shabda and induction and deduction method, and finally conclusion. So they adopted these scientific methods for writing sastras. And besides these three dimensions like observation, experimentation, and deduction, induction, the Vedic seers also considered another dimension of sastras is what is called intuition. So they also considered intuition also another important method of judging science or method of writing text. So they believed in intuition. They believed that intuition also one of the important dimensions of Vedic sciences. And here, Pratyaksha that deals with observation. Pratyaksha that deals with observation. Observation is very important. Observation is a very important and basic concept to understand something. If you observe nature, you will get something. So observation is the fundamental concept of science, and also observation is a fundamental concept of sastras. And whereas anumana, inference, another concept is what is called inference. We'll discuss in the third chapter, philosophical tradition, that anumana, inference, is another important factor of science, is also another important factor of Vedic sciences. Experimentation, which is also important both in sastras and both in our Vedic sastras and also in modern science. And Shabda, verbal testimony, this concept also is essential for both sastras, our Vedic sastras and science. And intuitive perception, another important concept was called sensual perception. This also was considered by our Vedic scholars or Vedic seers. So this you can understand that both science and sastras both are synonymous in terms of their adoption of methods, or in terms of their ways of conducting experiments, or in terms of ways of proving those experiments, or in terms of adopting different kinds of methods. So both in this way we can say that both science and sastras both are synonymous.